Next on the news, shock and sadness. The former pastor of a Louisiana church and an employee found brutally murdered.
It's a little different than the South Shore of Suffolk County, but this is now home.
Happy anniversary. The 8th Shepherd of Brooklyn, Bishop Robert Brennan, joins us to take a look back at a whirlwind year, 1 year after his installation in Brooklyn.
They're following their money, making sure it gets into the right hands to deliver a bright Christmas wish. I'm Jessica Easthope in Forest Hills. I'll have that story.
And the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe is getting an early start at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph.
Tomando mis manos entre tus manitas.
A horrific discovery in Louisiana. A former Catholic pastor and an employee of this church killed.
It's absolutely shocking.
Tonight, the search for answers.
Stuff that was found on scene that we can't release at this time makes us believe that it was a homicide.
After these parish murders.
I'm Christine Persichetti. Parishioners of St. Peter's Church in Covington, Louisiana are shaken to the core, coming together to pray for their former pastor and an employee of the church whose lives were tragically cut short. Currents News' Andy Madison reports on the latest.
People are in shock. That's the main reaction, I think, that can't believe that this could happen here.
People who live and work in Covington's historic downtown, shocked. 2 bodies were found burned beyond recognition in the back alley of this warehouse.
My business is right here across from our house, so it's pretty shocking because, we don't see that here.
St. Peter's Church now confirming one of them is their former pastor, 71-year-old Father Otis Young, Jr. Young was an accountant before he was ordained a priest in 2001 at the age of 49. He retired in July. He's described as a beloved pastor who touched the lives of so many with his faith, warmth, and pastoral heart. The coroner's office says his cause of death was blunt and sharp trauma. DNA analysis is underway to identify the second victim, but reports indicate it's an employee of the church. The Archdiocese of New Orleans released her name as Ruth Pratts. In a statement, the Archdiocese said, quote, "The horror of the events that have unfolded here in Covington is beyond shocking. The pain, sadness, and disbelief that something like this could happen will stay with us, but particularly those who are most directly affected, for a very long time."
We immediately initiated our investigation. Stuff that was found on scene that we can't release at this time makes us believe that it was a homicide.
Police have taken 2 people in for questioning and made 1 arrest so far. This man, Antonio Donde Tyson, on charges including first-degree murder, second-degree kidnapping, and the illegal possession of stolen things. Andy Madison, Currents News.
St. Peter's Ministry Center was open from 9 a.m. to noon Wednesday to help support the Covington community. Clergy and counselors were available. The Respect Marriage Act is now heading to the House of Representatives after the Senate gave it the go-ahead.
The bill, as amended, has passed.
The bill protects same-sex and interracial marriages. A bloc of Republicans crossed the aisle to pass it over concerns that the Supreme Court would reverse its 2015 decision recognizing gay marriage. While it doesn't prohibit states from banning those marriages, it would force them to recognize such marriages granted by other states. In a statement, Cardinal Timothy Dolan said the bill is a bad deal for the many courageous Americans of faith and no faith who continue to uphold and to believe and uphold the truth about marriage in the public square today. The act does not strike a balance that appropriately respects our nation's commitment to the fundamental right of religious liberty. U.S. House Democrats have a new leader, current caucus chair, Representative Hakeem Jeffries. Jeffries is the first black person to lead both parties in the chamber. He'll oversee a Democratic minority in 2023 for the first time in 2 terms and takes over for Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Jeffries says he wants to unify the party and regain majority in 2024. The Supreme Court is weighing in on a Biden administration policy that put a priority on deporting immigrants who posed a threat to national security. The High Court held oral arguments for more than 2 hours Tuesday. It's been challenged by Texas and Louisiana officials who say federal law does not provide the options for enforcing which immigrants can be singled out for deportation. In June, a federal judge blocked the policy. Then the following month, the Supreme Court rejected a request by the Biden administration to restore it, but agreed to hear arguments about it. Turning now to a big push for the tablet's Bright Christmas campaign. Students at Our Lady of Mercy Catholic Academy donating anything they can, spare change or leftover lunch money, to help other kids get gifts under the tree this Christmas. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has more on their heartwarming mission of giving.
This story is about a $10 bill and a paper trail that starts here and ends on Christmas morning underneath a tree. The bill was brought to school at Our Lady of Mercy Catholic Academy by 6-year-old Samuel Ortiz Brand. It's his very own to spend.
We'll give them money and they can buy the toys because it makes the kid happy and then they can have a good Christmas also.
Donations in the box, guys. Let's go.
Samuel's first grade class is raising money for the tablet's Bright Christmas campaign. Last year, he opened plenty of toys under his own tree. And this year's wish list is pretty long.
A Mario car, a real dog, a real cat, 5 cats, a whale set. Yeah, that's everything.
But he knows there are kids who have a lot less than he does. He wants his bill to be spent buying toys for them.
They didn't have toys, and God didn't have the chance to give them money, so we're gonna give them money.
Samuel made sure his bill was tucked in tight among others like it and some change in the donation box on his teacher, Mrs. Ray's desk.
When I explained to them that there are some children that, believe it or not, wake up on Christmas with nothing, they were shocked and they wanted to help. Are we done here?
The students wrote letters to the tablet to make sure their money was spent
Dollhouses and balls.
exactly the way they want. It's a hope that's as real as Christmas magic, the kind the tablet makes possible every year.
I can't explain. To see them so excited, what can I say? It's a beautiful thing.
Not only do these students have a wish for their money this Christmas, they have one for yours too. In Forest Hills, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
What a great story. Feeling inspired? There's still time to help the tablet reach their goal, and they need your help. The staff at the paper is hoping to top last year's record of $117,000 and raise $125,000 before Christmas. The need is great this year for families fighting inflation. Here's how you can get involved. Make a check out to the Bright Christmas Fund and mail it to Bright Christmas LB number 2118, P.O. Box 95,000, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the zip code 19195. Or you can make your donation online at thetablet.org/Bright Christmas. But before Christmas is the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and they were celebrating early in Brooklyn. A mariachi band was part of a big cultural event at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph Tuesday night. There was a presentation of a special portrait of Our Lady of Guadalupe and St. Juan Diego. The artwork will now be put on permanent display at St. Patrick's Cathedral. The Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe is on Monday, December 12th. Coming up on Currents News, we celebrate a milestone anniversary for the Bishop of Brooklyn.
The Lord in his providence has called me back to the shore.
It was 1 year ago that Bishop Robert Brennan was installed as the 8th shepherd for the Diocese of Brooklyn. The bishop will join me on the news desk next to talk all about it. Capitol Hill is stepping in, stopping a major strike that could lead to widespread shortages of goods and price spiking. And a sign of hope for Alzheimer's patients. A new drug appears to be slowing their cognitive decline. was exactly 1 year ago today, Bishop Robert Brennan being installed as the 8th Bishop of Brooklyn. And what a year it's been between the Synod and the Eucharistic Revival. He's made hundreds of visits to schools and churches. There have also been some challenges along the way, including COVID variants and inflation affecting parishes and the faithful. Joining us now to look back on 365 days as the shepherd of the Diocese of Brooklyn is Bishop Robert Brennan. Congratulations, Bishop.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I'm glad to be with you
I'm
today.
so happy you're
here. This is a great day. It really is. And it's nice to reminisce over that day a year ago today.
It really is. I mean, it's hard to believe that it's been a year. How are you adjusted to your new role in the big city?
Oh, I would say so. I would say so. It's an easy place to be at home here in Brooklyn and Queens. People are just warm. We tell it like it is in Brooklyn and Queens. Sure. And you just feel very, very much at home. Still trying to work around that traffic issue. I don't know. It's still.
Oh, boy, yeah. All those holiday shoppers, that's
right.
for sure. And exactly 1 year ago today, the two of us were sitting right here after you were installed. So let's take a look back quickly at your installation day.
On Friday, I went for a walk exploring the area, and I found myself midway along the promenade to the Manhattan Bridge, looking out over the Brooklyn Bridge, the skyline of lower Manhattan, and of course one of those ships on the water, and in the distance, the Statue of Liberty, a symbol of welcome, a symbol of hope for immigrants, and in some ways, an icon for this great diocese of immigrants.
Such great pictures. What goes through your mind when you reflect on that day?
Oh, actually,
I can see
looking
you're
at
getting emotional.
seeing the photos just brought back some beautiful memories of that day. A couple of comical ones. I mean, it just seems strange to be wearing a mask.
I know.
Oh man, we were just so accustomed to it, and it's only been a couple of months, and yet we were careful and didn't even know what we were walking into just a whole other round. And on November 30th of last year, everything seemed like we were moving forward, but we still had those masks on at certain times.
Absolutely. Always have to be careful, right? When you got here, it was the midst of the Synod process that must have helped you get acclimated to the diocese. I know you hit the ground running, visiting churches, visiting schools. What have you learned in the past year from those visits?
Okay, exactly. Those Synod visits were so well timed for me, and Bishop Damasio had set it up in a very nice way. So we were at the diocesan phase, and they were organized according to the deaneries, which meant it got me into each neighborhood. So it would take me a while. It still has taken me time to get to all the parishes, but I've been to all the neighborhoods.
Wow.
You know, through that Synod process.
Right. And another thing that came out through the Synod process was we learned parishioners want more of a focus on the area's diverse population. And let's listen to Sister Marianne LaPiccolo, who's leading the diocese's Synod efforts.
The challenge is, how do we make this one parish community? And then how do we build community within the parish?
So what are some ways we can preserve the diocese's rich diversity and yet build a community at the same time?
We talk a lot about the rich diversity of this city and as a result of the church in the city. And as Sister Marianne pointed out, one of the things that I found that really was new to me, something of a surprise, was seeing the diversity within the parish. It's not like you have a Chinese-speaking parish, a Spanish-speaking parish, an English-speaking parish, and an Italian. I can think of one parish in particular where you have all of that in one the one place.
9 a.m. is Chinese, 10 a.m. is
Exactly, exactly. And so there's a challenge, but there's also an opportunity in bringing everybody together. Diversity is good. It's important, but it's not the end. It's the unity that really matters. So we have unity in diversity. And you know, in the church, we call that the power of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit builds unity out of diversity. That's written into some of our prayers.
You mentioned on your podcast, Big City Catholics, that while the Diocese of Brooklyn is old and has a long history, you're only the 8th bishop. So God willing, you'll be with us for a very long time. So what are some of your goals moving forward?
That is interesting, right? I think the first 3 bishops of the diocese spanned over 100 years.
Wow.
From 1853 to 1956. Wow. 3 bishops. So yeah, I guess, you know, in the next 15 years or so, I hope to continue to build it on that unity. I think one of the things we want to do is be able to live the gospel and proclaim the gospel boldly and joyfully in a world that so desperately needs to know Jesus Christ. I'm so glad for tools like DeSales Media of all the different ways, and some of the work of DeSales is becoming more important, and so we have some tools that we can use and tools that others have that we can build upon. The social media, you mentioned the podcast, trying to find new ways to evangelize, or even just to be together, just to talk to one another in a deeper way.
I love it, and I know all your podcast listeners love it. Bishop Robert Brennan of the Diocese of Brooklyn, thanks so much for being here. Congrats again.
Thank you. This is exciting. God bless.
And stay tuned. Net TV is celebrating Bishop Brennan's installation all over again. If you're watching the 7 p.m. broadcast of Currents News, stay tuned. Our special broadcast of the installation from 1 year ago will air at 7:30 in its entirety. Developing news out of Capitol Hill, the House of Representatives voting to stop a freight rail strike that could cripple the shipping industry. The 2-part vote on Wednesday will block more than 100,000 rail workers from walking off the job next week. The bill is now in the hands of the Senate, who needs to pass it before a strike set for December 9th. For months, there's been a stalemate between the workers' unions and the railroads, who reported record profits last year, with one strike averted in September after a tentative agreement was reached. President Joe Biden asked top leaders in Congress to get involved this week after previously being reluctant to step into the fight.
The president made it pretty clear the repercussions, the ramifications for the country and for workers across the country if we don't get this done, if there is a strike.
Business groups fear a freight rail strike would lead to widespread shortages of food and goods, to prices spiking, and commuter train interruptions. Also in the news, use of the abortion pill is on the rise. The CDC report, which looks at data from 2020, before the overturning of Roe v. Wade, shows Americans are relying on chemical abortion or abortion by pill more than ever. Here are the numbers. Early medical abortion, which is before 9 weeks gestation, increased 22% from 2019 to 2020. And when you look at data from 2011, it's increased 154%. In more positive medical news, a new drug appears to slow the cognitive decline in Alzheimer's patients. A clinical trial shows the drug lecanemab has some success in removing clumps of protein which build up in the brain. However, questions have been raised about the drug's safety because it's been linked to serious side effects like brain bleeds and swelling. Still to come on Currents News, you'll want to spare a few minutes to see this next story, a bowling league that will bowl you over. And this. The circus came to town at the Vatican. Pope Francis wowed by some Kenyan acrobats. We'll show you. Now to a story that may seem miraculous to you, but has been the norm for one Detroit community for decades. Michigan's Blind Bowling League is celebrating its 50th anniversary. As Priya Mann reports, they are knocking down pins and stereotypes for those without sight.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it is 50 years. Oh my gosh.
Carla Fields has been a member of the Macomb Blind Bowling League since the 70s.
I'm not a very good bowler, but I enjoy doing it.
The team has been meeting at Fraser Star Lanes in East Point every Wednesday since 1998.
This is my freedom. This is where I can, like I says, my day off, come in and have some fun, and shoot the breeze with everybody, have a couple cold pops, and then go on home.
The league is celebrating 50 years this year.
A lot of the people that started this up 50 years ago, unfortunately, aren't around anymore, but they set the basis that started this league, and we're just fortunate to keep it going every year.
It's been a safe space for the blind and visually impaired to bowl, compete, and have fun.
All in the game. Oh my God! Just because you're visually impaired does not mean that you can't bowl, because we do have guide rails that you can, a person can follow if need be along the approach.
Over the decades, their numbers have dwindled from a peak of 60 members to 16 today.
We may not have as many people as we used to, but it's beautiful that we are still hanging in there.
They're hoping new members will join and carry on the league's legacy.
If you don't let the disability take over you, and you can have fun with it.
That's so cool. That was Priya Mann reporting. The games for the league happen every Wednesday, usually around 11:30 a.m., and the cost to bowl is $10 per week for league members. I was so mad. I was so mad. Wow, a Kenyan circus group called the Black Blues Brothers provided entertainment during Pope Francis's general audience Wednesday. The group wowed the Holy Father and the crowds with their show-stopping stunts in St. Peter's Square. This is their second time at the Vatican. They also performed in 2016. That looks like fun. And that is Currents News. We leave you with another look back on the installation of Bishop Robert Brennan as the Shepherd of Brooklyn on November 30th, 2021. And if you're watching the 7 p.m. broadcast of this newscast, stay tuned. There's more. Net TV is rebroadcasting Bishop Brennan's full installation mass next at 7:30. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.
The successor of the Apostle Peter, Pope Francis, has now entrusted the Diocese of Brooklyn, comprising the Church of Kings and Queens counties, to the pastoral leadership of our brother Bishop Robert J. Brennan.
I wish, in a very special way, to thank Bishop Nicolas Di Marcio, who has shepherded this diocese since a long time. Thank you.
I must admit, coming back this way, there is something familiar, even comfortable. On Friday, I went for a walk exploring the area, and I found myself midway along the promenade to the Manhattan Bridge, looking out over the Brooklyn Bridge, the skyline of lower Manhattan, and of course, one of those ships on the water, and in the distance, the Statue of Liberty, a symbol of welcome, a symbol of hope for immigrants, and in some ways, an icon for this great diocese of immigrants.